today we will discuss the biography of iconic designers, last name S.T. Schlumberger, John. John Schlumberger was born in 1907 in Mulhouse from a family of established textile manufacturers. In spite of John's early artistic inclination, his family denied him any form of artistic training. He made his first trip to the United States in 1929 to learn English and to work in a New Jersey silk factory, which he disliked intensely. He returned to Europe and his family sent him to London to learn typing and to Berlin to try his hand in banking. Once again, this proved unsuccessful, and he went to Paris. Here he first started work in the perfume department of Lucien Lelong, and after a short time joined Beaux-Arts art book publishers, where he designed posters and catalogs. During his time in Paris, he began collecting in flea markets odd pieces of gilt Victoriana, glass beads, porcelain flowers, which he then transformed into costume jewelry. He soon became known for these fantasy jewels and was flooded with requests. He decided to give up his job with the art publishers and devote all his time to his studio de fantaisie by setting up his workshop in Rue de la Boétie. He was soon noticed by the designer Elsa Schiaparelli, who had particularly admired a pair of Schlumberger earrings worn by Marina, Duchess of Kent, sometime in 1936-37. They were probably porcelain flowers or golden flying fish with diamond fins. Schiaparelli immediately commissioned Schlumberger to design a collection of buttons. Some took the form of Chinese pink starfish, and other bizarre fashion accessories caused a sensation in Paris. His successful collaboration with Schiaparelli came to an end in 1939 when Schlumberger joined the army at the outbreak of the Second World War. After the German invasion of France, he was evacuated from Dunkirk to England and then fled to America. Once in New York, he began designing gowns for Chess Neon. Though successful, his desire was to continue his line of fantasy jewels in precious materials, a trend that he had initiated already in Paris in 1939 when he had designed a gold cigarette lighter in the form of a fish. By chance, in New York, he bumped into his old friend from Paris, Nicolas Bungard, who was a nephew of the designer Paul Poret and had worked in the jewelry trade for his uncle René Boivin and for Lacroix. They decided to go into business together and set up a workshop at 745 Fifth Avenue. But in 1941, they both joined the Free French forces of General de Gaulle and left for the Middle East. In 1946, Schlumberger and Bungard returned to New York and established themselves at 21 East 63rd Street and also opened a shop in Paris. Throughout the late 1940s and 1950s, Schlumberger's well-known repertoire of jewelry was formed. He created the famous angels, birds, flowers, starfish, and seahorse, and juxtaposed vivid enamels, precious and semi-precious stone. From 1956 to 1976, he embarked upon a series of jeweled boxes and objects in the shape of cucumbers or melons, birds or palm trees, in gold and enamel, whereby they set up an exclusive Schlumberger department on the mezzanine floor from Tiffany, and at the same time became vice president of Tiffany&co. And in 1961, a retrospective exhibition of 85 Schlumberger pieces. In 1978, Schlumberger closed his Paris workshop, and in the early 1980s left New York and his Caribbean home to retire in Paris, where he died in 1987. Today, the Schlumberger department at Tiffany continues to thrive under the supervision of Nicolas Bungard and Stephen Collins. The jewels designed by John Schlumberger for Tiffany&co are signed Schlumberger in block capitals, followed or preceded by Tiffany&co. Serafini, Enrico. Enrico Serafini was born in Florence in 1913 and as an apprentice goldsmith worked on the souvenirs of Florence, such as the reproduction of Donatello's sculptures in bronze. He taught himself to design jewelry, and in 1947, after selling his designs to others, he set up his own workshop at 4 Piazza Santa Felicita. Here he thrived and soon became well known in Florence and abroad, especially in North America. His work is always characterized by great sculptural quality, by broad polychrome enamels set with gemstones or carved hardstone. Among his clients were Adlai Stevenson, Mrs. Stavros Niarchos, Countess Consuela Crespi, Princess Irene Galistni, and Marcus Emilio Pucci. In the second decade of his activity, his designs become more abstract, characterized by an interest in the texture of gold and reflecting the 1960 trend of jewelry design. He died in January 1968. Serafini jewels are usually signed E. Serafini. Pierre Sterle was born in the family of high-ranking financial officials. At the death of his father during the First World War, he was cared by uncle, who was a jeweler in the Rue de Castillon. This initial exposure to the world of jewelry was to prove of paramount importance for the choice of Pierre's subsequent career. After having worked for various jewelers, Sterle opened his own business in 1934, on the 6th floor of premises in Rue Saint-Anne. Subsequently, he moved to the Rue des Moulins and then in 1945 to the 3rd floor of 43 Rue de l'Opéra, refusing to exhibit his work in a ground floor shop window. The firm closed its doors in the early 60s. Sterle's work is appreciated for its originality and for the fact that it epitomizes the spirit of the 40s and 50s. His jewels are usually signed Sterle, Paris. Tiffany&Co. The firm Tiffany&Co. was founded by Charles Louis Tiffany, New England in 1812 and in New York in 1902, with his partner John B. Young, with premises at 259 Broadway, New York. The firm began by selling novelties and stationery, later adding French, German, and English jewelry, together with Bohemian crystals and Dresden porcelain. In 1841, the expanded business brought in another partner, J. L. Ellis, and the firm was then called Tiffany, Young and Ellis. In 1848, Tiffany managed to purchase the famous diamond girdle of Marie Antoinette, and in 1887, to buy 24 lots from the sale of the French crown jewels. By 1853, Young and Ellis retired from the partnership, and the firm became simply Tiffany&Co. with new premises at 550 Broadway. From 1851, the renowned American silversmith John C. Moore began designing exclusively for Tiffany. At the Paris exhibition of 1878, Tiffany received the first place gold medal for silver craftsmanship and the gold medal for its jewelry. This was the first time an American company was so honored by a foreign jury. In 1870, the famous six-pronged Tiffany satin for diamond solitaires was introduced. And in 1877, the Tiffany diamond, a fancy yellow diamond of 287 carats, was found and cut down to a stone weighing 128 carats. Furthering the firm's dedication to and the reputation for excellence in design, Louis Comfort Tiffany, the famed artist and son of Tiffany&Co.'s founder, became the firm's first director of design, a post he held from 1902 through 1918. During that time, an entire floor of Tiffany&Co. was devoted to merchandise crafted in Tiffany studios, Louis Comfort Tiffany's atelier, as well as the colorful jewelry. Nowadays, Tiffany&Co. continues in its tradition of supporting quality and excellence of design. At present, Tiffany&Co. has one of the largest collections of fine jewelry with its special collection created exclusively for Tiffany. Tiffany operates 11 branches throughout the United States. Internationally, Tiffany has shops in London, Munich, Hong Kong, and Zurich, and sells Tiffany products through Faraone shops in Milan and Florence, and through Mitsukoshi in Japan and Hawaii. Tiffany&Co. jewelries are usually signed Tiffany&Co. Trabert&hoffer Inc. Mabussin. The American firm of Trabert&hoffer Inc. was located at 522 Fifth Avenue in the Guaranty Trust building. It also had a branch in Paris at 58 Rue Lafayette and one in Detroit, Michigan at 120 Madison Avenue. Its association with Mabussin of Paris began in 1929, when Mabussin decided to open a branch in New York. The new Mabussin outlet was inaugurated on the 1st of October, just 2 weeks before the Wall Street crash. The Parisian firm was then left with a large stock in the United States and in the attempt to withdraw with minimal losses. Mabussin reached an agreement with Trabert&hoffer Inc. Thereby, they would take on Mabussin stock and name. The new business was called Trabert&hoffer Inc. Mabussin. By the early 30s, Trabert&hoffer Inc. Mabussin moved premises to Park Avenue on 57th Street and expanded created branches in Los Angeles, Atlantic City, Miami Beach, Palm Beach, and Paris. The firm was best known for a line of jewels called Reflection Your Personality in a Jewel. Reflection jewels were mainly in yellow 18-karat gold, set with semi-precious stones. Made out of relatively cheap cast elements, they could be assembled in different combinations according to the customer's personal taste and style. After the war, in 1946, Trabert&hoffer Inc. broke their connection with Mabussin. Their jewels are normally signed Trabert&hoffer Mabussin. And today that's all we wanted to discuss. Stay tuned for future podcasts. Goodbye.